Hi, and welcome to Matisync's Skill of the Week. This week we are going to be going over the polls tool. This tool will allow you to create a poll in your portal for your portal members to answer. It's a great way of facilitating elections or asking your members what social they want your organization to create, that sort of stuff. So to get to the poll tool, what you're going to want to do is hover over the More option in the toolbar, and then just scroll down to Polls and click on it. And this is the Poll Tool dashboard. In the center will be a list of all of the open polls, this portal having currently none. And toward the right will be your Create a Poll and Archived Polls options. Create a poll is something we'll get to in a second. Just for now, let's go over what an archived poll is. Basically, any poll you create, assuming you give it an end date, will end up here once it ends. This is a list of all of the polls that you opened and that were closed. You can click on one to get the distribution of scores at the end of the poll cycle. So in this case, we had a 50-50 split, with one person voting for each option for polls and creating a form. The person who voted for polls obviously is probably really happy right now. So, let's go back to the poll tool and create our poll. So we click on create a poll, and here is the screen for creating a poll. So this, as I mentioned, this is a great way of facilitating elections. So what we're going to do is we're going to treat this as if we are creating an election-based poll. So the poll, or the election we'll be holding, is what mascot do you want CSUN to have? And whenever you're doing an election with a poll, it is imperative to include poll instructions. This will open a text box for you to include things like your candidate's pictures and your candidate's biography or statement of purpose. In this case, we can just head over here where I have saved two pictures. Our first contendant in the election is Matty the Matador. If we double click on this picture, we can tell that this is a little too large. We can correct the width and height in a way that will fit in the text box, so that maybe right next to it, maybe right here, we can just throw in a little bit about Matty's statement of purpose. Another great way of doing this is to go right under the picture and type here. So let's throw in our second candidate's picture as well. And here we have the Matador statue, who I guess wants to be the mascot as well. He is our second option. And again, in this case, I would double click on the picture, collect the width and height so that it looks better in the actual text box, and then put his biography statement of purpose right under. So that is a really cool way of setting up an election in Matisync. In this case, we only need two options, but keep in mind that for answer choices, it requires two, but you can always have more. So if I clicked Add Option or Add Option, I can have as many of these as I want. We can also get rid of one if we realize there's one too many. But in this case, we will do Matty the Matador and the Matador statue. There we go. Perfect. So, once we have that done, we are going to head over to the next field, which is settings for our poll. So for poll options, there are three. There is allow voters to select more than one answer. This would be fine for, let's say, what social do you want to operate, but for an election, it makes more sense to only allow one vote per person so that we're not flooding both sides with equal votes. Next option is always hide results for non-admins. This is a really great thing to click on for an election because we don't necessarily want people to view how few or how many votes a specific candidate has received. So that's something that might be advantageous when running an election. The one under it, which goes away if we click to hide the results, is to show the results before the poll ends. So this is sort of the opposite of that second option. This is, we will be able to see the results come in as the election progresses, sort of like the US election in a lot of ways. But like I said, for Matisync elections, I think in this case we're going to hide results, so only admins know the actual distribution of scores. Allow voting. For an election, it makes no sense to have an always open poll. That means the election would never end. Instead, we want date ranges, which gives us a range of dates for this poll to stay open for people to vote. In this case, December to March might not be the greatest, so click on the end date, and this little calendar tool pops up, and we can change the month. So let's, instead of doing March, let's stick to December, and let's make sure we're in 2016. And since our poll is going to open December 16th at 12 a.m., why don't we give everyone 24 hours to put in their vote? So as you can see up here in sort of the faded font, December 17th, 12 a.m. is when this poll is going to end. Click off that, and there we go. We have our date range set. Publish settings, we have published and unpublished. Keeping it unpublished will mean that when we create the poll will not appear as of yet. This is great for if you want your start date to be followed, so you keep it unpublished, but it's created, and it'll publish when this date for the start time hits. If we publish it right on creating a poll, then it's just going to be there at the start. We're not going to wait for this start date to appear. So for now, we're going to click unpublished. And then we have our visibility settings. So we have, again, public plus website, which means that anyone will be able to see this poll, even your website, people who visit the website you create with Matisync are going to be able to see this poll, which probably isn't the best thing for an in-club election. CSUN means that everyone in this Matisync profile will be able to see this poll. So that's everyone who is in Matisync via CSUN. Also probably not the best for an in-club poll. HQ, now our portal that we're creating this poll in is Matisync HQ, which means that we really only want people to see this poll in our portal. The people in our portal should be the only people really seeing our election. So we're going to click HQ to make sure that those are the only people who see it, only people who vote for it. Selected groups would be, if we click on it, we can select certain groups to view this poll. This is great for, let's say, in your election, only your executive board gets to vote on new executive board members. Well, then you might want to create a poll that only administrators can see. But in this case, we want all of our portal to see the poll. So we're going to create the poll. And as you can see, we left it unpublished, which is why this orange bar appears that says this poll is unpublished. And we can see that our pictures have appeared. We didn't put any text below the pictures, but keep in mind that that's a great thing to do in an election. And under this, we will see poll results. We need to publish it to vote in it. So why don't, for the sake of argument, we just publish this poll, and it'll ask you for verification. We're going to say okay, and bam. Alright, so who are we going to vote for? Well, I like Maddie. I think he should stick with being our mascot, so I'm going to submit my vote. And poll results, one person has voted for Maddie the Matador. You can also leave comments in this poll. For instance, I can say, I love Maddie, exclamation point. Throw that in there, and bam. We've added a comment, and anyone who votes can add a comment if they so desire. We can edit it, we can delete it, which I'm going to do because no one needs to actually vote in this. And that is the polls tool. So go in there, create your polls, create your election polls, create your social polls, whatever poll you want to make. Sky's the limit, and I will see you at the next Matisync Skill of the Week. You have a great week. Bye-bye.